something to you, though, that takes a little bit longer than an elevator speech, but I think it's really appropriate today, of all days, to do that. How many of you remember PID Carolyn Harris? A lot of you, okay. Well, when we were in Denver recently, we heard this story, and it was Lion Clarence Harris's story. And Clarence was asked, why did you become a lion? And he said, I've been blessed with good fortune in life and became a lion to serve my community and to help those less fortunate and to have fun. Martin Luther King said, we can all be great because we can all serve. Clarence said, and because my wife, past international director Carla Harris, said I should join, and therefore I did. So the next question was, what keeps you active as a lion? And he said, I've seen the extraordinary service, accomplishments of lions, and when we work together and are supported by LCIF, I know firsthand that one lion can make a difference. Well, what's the impact that LCIF has made? He said, in Wisconsin, we have greatly benefited from grants received for disaster relief, sight, and youth over the years. But the most recent grant and the one pending are the most exciting grants ever. Late last year, we received a $100,000 LCIF matching grant for a flow cytometer. It is the computer equipment you have seen on TV that turns one's own T cells into cancer-fighting ninjas. Of the 20 adults with stage 4 cancer who have been treated for blood cancer this year, 8 of whom were given less than a month to live, 13 are in remission. We have another $100,000 LCIF grant, soon to be released for another flow cytometer, and even more exciting, trials for children start this year. There is no way that our multiple district could have purchased 2 flow cytometers without the funding and support of LCIF, and no one should outlive their children. So why is campaign 100 important? He said, this campaign allows me to carry on my wife's legacy of service and her work on eradicating childhood cancer. During the summer of 2016, First Vice President Goodrin asked Carla to chair her district governor-elect school. Unfortunately, Carla was diagnosed with malignant brain cancer in December of that year. Nevertheless, Goodrin kept her on the team as chairman. The responsibility gave Carla a greater sense of purpose, and that, I believe, added months to her life, and for that I will be eternally grateful. Despite 3 brain surgeries, radiation, chemotherapy, and twice daily shots in her stomach, Carla's resolve never wavered. And during the last 5 months of her life, Carla also agreed to participate in a research study whose goal was to help children with brain cancer. Despite many days of having low energy and headaches, she readily agreed to long, noisy, tiring MRIs each month. The study also required me to shave her head every 3 days so she could wear 36 electrodes on her head that were intended to disrupt cancer cell division. The electrodes were hot and occasionally caused painful shocks and had to be worn a minimum of 18 hours a day, and yet Carla never complained. Seeing her so uncomfortable, I told her to just stop the research. Her response was something I will never forget. Carla said, it's for the children. I'm a lion for life, and that means not only for as long as I live, but also for life means for the lives of children this research might help. She didn't know a child is diagnosed with cancer every 2 minutes, and the average age is just 6. Carla just wanted to help. I'm happy to report she submitted her final materials for the DG school and held a 2-hour conference call with leadership to review her work and the slate of instructors. Carla received much acclaim that day. She was thrilled and watched 2 hours of Friends, ate rice pudding, and later that night had the fatal late brain bleed that ultimately ended her life. As part of research, Carla donated her brain, and as an organ donor, 2 individuals received the gift of sight. You see, one person can make a big difference. So, Lion Clarence is telling his story, and although that is not a story that you can share on an elevator, those of us who knew Carla knew how dedicated she was as a lion. It's just been 2 years today that she passed, and all of us who knew her miss her terribly, and I wanted to share that with all of you. So sometimes the right thing to say is, you know, I heard a story when I was at the convention. I learned that we can make a difference. I learned something new that can take care of our needs and maybe grow our membership, or maybe just tell people what we're all about. So you've got a 30-second time period on an elevator. Well, I've looked at the buildings in Arizona, and I can tell you from the get-go that you don't have buildings tall enough to do a full speech in this state. We do in New York and Boston and Chicago and all of those places. But your buildings are a little short, so you either A, have to talk fast, although I heard Daniel talk fast at this last seminar, and I didn't understand a word he said, so that would not be helpful. But you want to do a commercial. You have a brief amount of time where you can tell somebody about yourself or what you do. Now imagine the elevator, and usually there's 4 to 6 people standing there. Most of the time you go up silent, watching for your number. When are you going to get off? How many people will still be on or getting off on your floor? Elevator speeches are not just for elevators. They're for everywhere. Norm is by far the best elevator speaker I have ever heard. But he has a particular knack for finding out what might interest the person sitting next to him. We're coming back from Spokane, and there's 3 seats on our plane, and he's in the middle, which he never really likes, but I had the aisle and I wasn't giving it up. It was staying with me. But there was a young mom there, and they started talking. She was from Arizona. Her kids were in 1st and 3rd grade, and she asked where we had been coming from. And Norm said, well, we just came back from the Lions Leadership Forum. He said, we just had the best time. She said, Lions? And he said, do you know about Lions Kids Site? She said, well, I heard about it. I heard about it in our schools, and I think the Lions have tested my kids. And so Norm gave her another couple minutes, and then when she put her earphones on, he knew he was done, that she wasn't going to listen anymore. But when we were getting off the plane, she says to him, thank you for sharing that information. She said, I'm going to look into it further. Now, unfortunately, all of our business cards were in our luggage. We did not have them with us. But had we might have been able to give her a connection. And I hope she did seek out Lions in the meantime. People will stop you when they see your badge, when they see your name tag, when they see just a Lions pin. We have been stopped in airports across the country. And one particular pilot was sitting at the gate, and he said to us, oh, you're Lions. And we said, yes. And he said, well, the Lions sent me to youth exchange camp. This man was in his 50s. He said it was the best experience my life. And I said, well, are you a lion today? He said, no, but I'm getting ready to retire from being a pilot, and I will have time. He said, and I'm going to look up the club in my community. 30 seconds, that's all it takes. And Daniel's right, keep those applications in your pocket. Although they don't give us women inside pockets very much. But you gotta find someone's hot button. And it's what intrigues them. What is going to make them want to belong to what we do? This afternoon at lunch, I listened so much to I.D. Wade when he asked everybody what was their passion, what was their hot button, why did they do what they do? And there were people in the room that were listening. A, they were getting new ideas, and B, they were sharing what they're so proud of. And if no one ever asks you, and you don't get to share, you don't get to pump yourself up. And to me, that makes a huge difference. So what triggers these responses? Well, we've seen the Lions shirts, apparel, pins, name badges, convention badges. Sometimes you're at an event. You might be doing a county fair and have your own booth. And people will stop by, or maybe it's an eyesight screening, or maybe it's diabetes screening. It's any one of the things that we do 1,000 times a year. And people want to learn more about it. People will ask you questions, and hopefully you have the answers. Not paragraphs long, just simple and to the point. At fundraisers, they will ask, place of employment, social gatherings, places that you are on a normal lifetime of just being. You don't have to do anything extra, but maybe just talk about what you did this weekend, or what you did at your meeting, or what was the most recent service project, and how you shared it, and what kind of a difference did it make? Because we all do make a difference. So the content of your elevator speech has to be a hook. You have to entice somebody to ask more questions. Mine is always, I became a lion to make a difference. And I stay a lion because we do. And then I talk about the things that I have seen. In Denver, Bobby, you were there, I went up on the elevator with 2 young men, and one of them says, I love your perfume. And I thought, oh boy, where is he getting off this elevator? But he said, why are you here? And I said, well, there's a large group of us. I said, we're here to learn have some training on how to conduct Campaign 100 to its best advantage. Well, what is Campaign 100? And we talked about it. So one thing led to another, to the point where he was getting off the elevator and holding the door open because he wanted more information. And so that's exactly the type of thing we have to do, is to make people ask more questions, get them involved, make them inquisitive. When you're doing this elevator speech, you talk about who you are. Well, my name's Carolyn Messier, and I don't tell people that I'm a past international director. They're not interested in that. They want to know who I am as a lion and what are we doing. And that's what you would do. You would say, hi, my name is, and tell them your latest service project, or what it is that makes you so excited to go to a meeting on a Thursday night. I know in Connecticut, it better be a good reason to go to a meeting on a Thursday night in January, because we have very, very bad road conditions. And also, when you're telling the story, you want to be enthusiastic. You want to be excited. You want to be able to convey that, yeah, you're going to be a lion for a long time, and there's good reason for that. So you adapt to your audience. Could be a mom and dad. Well, I've talked to them about Lions Kids Site, or maybe diabetes screening, or maybe pediatric cancer. And that with one $100 donation, we can save the lives of 8 kids. Wow, I want to be involved with that. Or it might be a businesswoman or man. And sometimes the corporations will pay their dues for them to belong to our association because they want that inter-community relationship. They want to have that connection. The Connecticut Lions Eye Bank is owned and operated by the Oddfellows Association. The Oddfellows have always had 2 or 3 lions on their board of directors because the lions have had more to do with vision than the research, at least at that time when it had its inception. So we go to meetings. I was on that board for a long time. Oddfellows would always ask, what are you doing? What are the Lions up to these days? When we first told them about Lions Kids Site, they bought us 2 slot machines. Nice. Well, they just dismantled the Connecticut Lions, the Connecticut Eye Bank, because another corporation took it over. So the Oddfellows came to the Lions and said, we have a little bit of money that we'd like to donate. What are the Lions doing? Well, our representative on the board said, well, we've got a research project that's going on that needs about $15,000. We want to get a new van for the Guide Dog Foundation, that's another $15,000. He said, so I know it's a lot of money, but you know, those are our needs right now. And knowing that we had been doing Lions Kids Site, they said, well, do you need anything for Kids Site? And Alan said to them, well, yeah, we can always use more machines. At which point they wrote a check for $15,000 for research, $15,000 for the guide dog van, and $100,000 to buy more spot machines. If the conversation had never taken place, it never would have happened. A simple conversation was all it took, and we didn't ask for the money. They were interested in what we're all about. And when you get that kind of interest, and it's not even on a big scale, it's that kind of interest at your local club. What are you doing in your community? Gotta get people involved. Now, I heard a lot this weekend. I haven't heard much about New Voices, the new program that's taking place to entice more diversity in our organization, more specialty clubs, more women in Lions. You know, when I went on the board of directors, I was the only female from the United States. Since then, we've had other women, and Carla being the best of the best. But we don't have enough at the top. But we can't get women to be international directors if they never have a chance to be governor. So we need to promote that within ourselves, not just women, all the diverse members that we have. We are an organization of diversity, and you can use that in your elevator speech. You can take what we do and how many nations are involved, how many people we bring into our association that makes us better. Because otherwise, if we're all the same, it's pretty darn boring. You know, we won't have any excitement, nothing will change. And I know we did it that way 40 years ago, and we're going to do it that way again. Well, no, that's not working so great. So we want to come up with new ideas, and new ideas come from new people. New people get interested because of elevator speeches. What do we offer? What do you offer a new member? You might want to talk about that. Or what problems have we solved? How many diseases around the world are no longer diseases? Other examples that come right from the community. And what problems have been solved when a group of committed adults get together and work together to solve a problem. I like Daniel's approach today when he said these are opportunities. Not everything is a problem, but we can expand on what we do. So some of the accomplishments, well, service to the community, and every community has different needs. So we can pick and choose. Maybe we want to focus on youth. I love your weekly events. They were marvelous. And it certainly is something that every lion in the room could take back with them. Disaster relief. Well, I know when the Yarnell fires hit, you guys had a lot of help. When the fires are in California, when there are earthquakes and tornadoes and all these other things. It's on the news. But the lions are always the first to land and the last to leave. And we don't tell anyone that. Lions Kids Site, my favorite of all. I was on the founding committee for that. So that has a forever place right in my heart. Feeding the hungry. There are hungry people everywhere. Bobby, your idea for the schools is just amazing. And the idea that you even brought in the washers and dryers I thought was phenomenal. Pediatric cancer, nothing is worse. Nothing is worse. None of us should ever outlive our kids. And the diabetes initiative. Oh my God, there's so many people. I watched the documentary on Woodstock because I wanted to be there 50 years ago. And Nora was in the Air Force and they wouldn't let us leave the base. Or I would have been there. And I looked at the documentary and not one person was overweight. 500,000 people were at that rock concert and there was not one obese person in the crowd. In 50 years, diabetes has gotten out of control. So we need to do more for that. Whether it's education or screenings or whatever it is, we need to do more of that. And by talking to people on the elevator or in the plane or at the airport or in the grocery store, we can get more people involved in our fight. So if you're going to do your own personal elevator speech, and I'd like you to kind of, at each table, come up with some ideas about bits of information that you would like to share in about 30 seconds to a total stranger. Then you talk about things like, who do we serve and why? What do we do? Who do we partner with? And guess what? For the 8th year in a row, we've gotten our 4-star Charity Navigator rating, telling the whole world that we know how to run a 501c3. We know how to run a foundation, and we do it better than anybody else. So I would like you to just talk amongst yourselves and maybe pick out one person from each table. I won't have everybody stand up, but I will pick a couple to kind of share an idea about what you might want to have in your elevator speech. What are you going to carry with you in your backpack of talk and see how it goes? So get together, you've got 5 minutes.
This is the last one, darn it. Join us. All right. It's easier. Right. What is this you put on here? Oh, it's that's my name and my pronoun. Okay, perfect.
Gosh, I think there's one story that's always my favorite. I read it in Mind magazine when I first started, and it was about this community who lived on the and by each tribe, each person was totally black, and their skin turned white, and somehow there was a fellow and we found out what it was. We discovered what was really happening to us. It was a mosquito that we got trapped in. He told his friend who worked for him, they developed a pill. They caused 5 cents. 5 cents. And they took it back to the then the friend who was a pharmaceutical work with Walter. Okay? He came down and we came to the same site and showed me the sanitized water. It's the first time in their life they have clean water. And all the time, one person who met it with another person who met it with another person. And the whole thing, everybody's healthy. Those children don't have to have the fear that they will be blind as they get older because their mother or their grandma is there. The total yes. Yes. Okay. And I tell people that because I know it's true. And, okay. The reason why I got into teaching diabetics was I was a nurse forever, 35 years. And my first assignment was in diabetic kidney. Okay. And when I found out about these ladies, I took an initiative to go to their doctor and introduce myself. And this is what I'd like to do. Do I have your permission to do so? Because all they would do is smile. All they do is smile. I said, yeah, I love doctors. You know, they don't smile. And about this process, and the computer, and it's working on it. Because you know, diabetes, you don't have that is sacrificing.
Couple more minutes.
If you're not going to do that, then you have to truly put into action. I made them bring all the magazines because they were inundated with magazines and this and that. And if you don't take that information and put it to heart, you're going to be in the same situation. So, working in my home, it does give them a sense of pride because they're not inundated in training.
Okay.
It's still very good.
You're all engrossed, so I think you're really getting together with these thoughts. But I'm going to start right here at this table. Somebody be the spokesman. Bill. See, I've seen Bill give the same thing, so I was a little intimidated coming in here today.
I ordinarily wear live here. I forgot to home this weekend. But what I do, a lot of people will stop and what's your errand? I said, it's Lions. Well, what's the Lions? That's my whole thing. So I say, want to know what Lions do? Close your eyes. Now open them. No, excuse me. Close your eyes. What do you see? Now open them. That's what Lions do. Blindness prevention and sight preservation worldwide is our major emphasis. However, our motto is we serve. We try and find needs in our community and meet those needs. Now, doesn't that sound like an organization you'd like to belong to? That's my identity.
Very good. Daniel, we're going to put you on the spot. Your table.
Sure.
So as it so happens, I'm sitting at the table with someone who is not yet a member of Lions Clubs International.
Oh, well, we can fix that.
This is Barbara. So I had a chance to give my 30-second elevator speech and put an application in her hands. So hopefully, before the end of tonight, that might be filled out. I simply said this. I believe that Lions Clubs International is the association that has the ability to save the soul of this nation. Because I can serve my community with people on the far left and the far right, and we leave politics and sectarian religion at the door, and it doesn't matter because we're there to serve the needs of the community, and it's the only place I know that does that, and that's why you should be a member.
Amen.
Yeah. All right, who's next? Who wants to go? Okay.
There's a lot of information at this table that I thought was really important. Here you go.
Of course.
Make your reach. I think I can make your reach. I will come up to see you.
Okay.
I will come up to see you.
Yeah. Well, not right now. Don't trip.
Oh, well, I want to do the guy next to you.
Oh, no. I thought that was just
lady said, what is Lions Club? And she said, did you know we're over in 200 countries worldwide, and we are the best kept secret. I thought that was great. Well, what's the secret? I don't know the secret. I'm a great gossip. What's your secret? Another gentleman said, we offer the opportunity to meet the finest people in the community. I like that one. And the young lady said, well, do you go to the county fair? Well, sure, we go to the county fair. Well, come see us at a booth, because we will give you free ice cream, and we will give you a free diabetes check. I thought that's a great way to get people right in there, because you're offering something.
Very good, thank you. Who else would like to come up? Come on from the other tables. Oh, come on. You're not all shy.
So Lion Richard said he'll share sometimes with people that we are the largest philanthropic organization in the world.
Okay.
And Lion Lewis and Nancy, they like to talk about how in their community people can get a hold of them and get free eye exams. They connect them to the local optometrist, and they can help them with their glasses.
Wonderful, wonderful. That would make me interested in joining this organization. How about in that back corner? Come on, you guys were really lively back there.
Okay. Anytime somebody asks me, I always tell them that, what the Lions are famous for is, we always buy glasses for needy school kids, As a matter of fact, they bought me mine, and that's what got me to become a Lion. And so, and then, from there I says, but we also do other things, with sight and hearing, so, we started the service dogs, and then we're getting into diabetes, and then we're also, not only do we help needy school kids, now we're helping senior citizens that cannot afford to buy their own glasses, so. That,
You're reaching the gamut, childhood to older adulthood. That's wonderful.
So that's what I always tell them about. We always help with sight and hearing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I just thought of something.
Yes.
What if you carried a pig? Our club sponsored bought from Lions Dog of the Desert. What is that? Leader Dog of the Desert. And unfortunately, our dog flunked.
No, he had a career change.
I like that.
Leader dogs do not flunk.
He had a career change.
Yes.
And the lady that trained him adopted him, so that was great. But I just thought of something. People always love animals.
Yes.
What if you kept a picture of a leader dog in your wallet?
Yeah.
Or your purse?
That's
Or a
perfect.
picture like with Tom with the leader dog and he's a lion? That's just a thought.
Our multiple district in Connecticut used to focus entirely on guide dogs for the blind. And they have since expanded, and much to the grumpiness of some older Lions, into all service dogs. Because there are so many different needs. If it's epilepsy or diabetes or you can't see, whatever the need is, our clubs are given the choice of supporting those needs. So maybe your club isn't interested in guide dogs for the blind. Maybe they're interested in a service dog for a veteran. Those are the types of things that you can utilize, and again, attracting new people. The other thing is, and I don't know if you do this in Arizona, we have 2 Veterans Lions Clubs that are at the VA hospitals, where our veterans live in those hospitals and really can't get out, but have Lions Clubs in there, where they're able to do small service projects and small fundraisers, and they come to our conventions. You'll get probably 6 or 7 of the vets that will come, some in wheelchairs, some amputees, some that are just unable to live on their own, so they're residents of the VA. And they are delighted to be able to put their talents to some use. So there's another option as far as that goes. You want to, when you're talking to people, eliminate unclear information. I heard somebody say the largest philanthropic organization, and yes, we are, and that's wonderful. But there's people in the street that don't know what that means. So we need to get better down to basics, closer to what we actually do hands-on. Don't use acronyms. If you're talking about our organization, LCIF, LCI-CON, LCI this, no one is going to understand you. So you need to use all the words, you know, in your outside voice or your inside voice, but you do need to use all the words, and you want to brag about the good stuff. That's what you want to focus on. Yes, Ann?
One of the things that I've done is I've taken our Lions Club business card, and on the back of it, I've gone ahead and typed in some of the dollar amounts and things that we do. So it's easy to hand someone my business card, and on the back it tells what Lions do.
Excellent. Speaking of business cards, we have a club called the Granby Lions Club. They put their own business cards in every real estate office and every bank in their community. And on the back of the card, it says, good for one free dinner. We meet on this night. Come and join us. It doesn't cost the club very much at all. But they picked up an awful lot of new members that said, it's not going to cost me anything to go find out what this Lions Club's all about. And by putting them in real estate offices, I know when we moved here, when we moved to our home in Windsor Locks, we wanted to know what the organizations were in town and how do you get to meet more people. And you want to meet people who are interested in the same things you are. So something like that, good for one free dinner in our Lions Club, is not a very big expense, but it's a great recruitment tool. So something, again, to consider. If you had to pick some cards, you want to talk about yourself. Who am I? What do I do? How do I do it? Do I do it alone or do I do it with a group of people? Why do I do it? That's where the heartstrings come in. And who do I do it for? And be specific. It might be the children, it might be the elderly, it might be the hungry. But these are the people we do it for. When you're thinking about your speech, because you can practice at home, you can practice in the car. I used to do my governor's speech in the car. People must have thought I was insane going down the highway talking to myself, but that's what I did. You can practice that 30-second speech. Put on a timer. Get in an empty elevator. What you want to do, your ultimate goal, is to immediately engage someone so that he or she is intrigued and wants more information. That's all it is. It's a brief commercial. And we see commercials on television all the time, and we know which ones capture our interest, and half the time I will listen to the commercial and I don't know what they're selling. That is not a good commercial. They may be clever and they may be cute, but if I don't know what the product is, then it's really not a very good commercial. And do not hesitate to hand out your business card. Always have those with you so that they know how to contact you. And I have made that mistake myself. Yes, Bill?
Well, that's great. You know, it's excellent to pass out your business card or your club's card, but you need to get their information as well.
That's true, so you can follow up. Yeah. Absolutely. And it could be written on the back of one of your cards if you don't happen to have a piece of paper and a pen with you. And you're going to practice. You're going to recite your pitch to someone who can be objective. You're going to record yourself so you can hear what you have to say. And you're going to ride the elevator alone. In Arizona, it's a short trip. And you're going to practice, practice, practice. Yeah, you could go up and down. That could work. Mistakes to avoid: speaking too fast. Dan spoke so fast this afternoon on that one line that I had no idea what he had said. So you want clarity, you want people to understand what you're saying. You don't use slang. That may not be understood. And you have to be respectful of people. If you don't know who they are and you don't know their background or you don't know what might offend them, you have to be very careful. Kindness works, smiles work, enthusiasm works, but you don't want to be in the position of maybe offending someone. You don't want to be a robot. I belong to the Lions Club of Gilbert, and here I am, I'm going to teach you all about lions in 30 seconds. No, that's not going to work. Not having the business card is a mistake. And standing there not saying anything on that little elevator ride is also a mistake, because you've missed an opportunity. Anybody with questions? Anything at all? Well, except about Norm, I can't. Yes, sir. Oh, that's sure. I've got my email up there. Email me and I'll send it to you. Yes, anybody? I have one short little story that I share with about Norm. Norm is the patient one in our family. He is very patient about all things. I don't like solicitors on the phone, and I don't like robocalls, and I am the quickest one to hang up, or I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm the cleaning lady, and I have no authority. And that's the end of my conversation. Norm, on the other hand, for a solicitor, will say, well, you have to understand, we give all of our donations to LCIF. That's the Lions Clubs International Foundation. And they're a 501c3, and they have a 4-star rating on Charity Navigator. And he goes on and on until they hang up on him. It is the best way to get the word out to somebody you don't know. Maybe they'll remember it, maybe they won't, but at least you're not having this always one-sided conversation. So I thank you all for being here this afternoon. Hopefully I didn't take up too much time. We're 3 minutes early. So if you have any questions, that's great. Thank you.
Their